Hello, beautiful friends. It is a fun day. Any day I get to start seeds is a fun day. It is really nasty here in Arkansas. It is raining and gross, and winter is approaching. You guys know I don't do winter well, and when I refer to cold, everyone's like, girl, it's not really that cold, but it is seriously getting cold. We've got nights down that is supposed to be like 7 and 8 degrees. It's supposed to only get into like mid-20s during the day. So when I tell you legit winter is coming, legit winter is coming. So I am spending very little time outside, spending a lot of time in the greenhouse in my herb room where I'm nice and cozy and the heater going, and I just keep cranking out seeds because that is what I do this time of year. I'm kind of foolish with it in the fact that when I'm just having a blue day, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start some seeds. That's gonna make me happy. It's gonna put a smile on my face, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm starting my flower seeds today. Now, not all of them. The flowers that I'm going to be starting today are my dahlias and my carnations, and then I'm going to try some marigolds. Now, most of the flowers that I'm growing, I won't be starting until like the first or second week in March, especially like my zinnias and my sunflowers. I've started those prematurely before, and they just get really tall. Their stalks aren't really that sturdy. You know, a lot of times people just direct sow. There's sunflowers and there's zinnias, so for me, I'm starting some to sell at the plant sale, but I certainly don't want to start them too early and then they just be a flimsy, you know, start and not good. So I'm trying to hold off on those. You know, a lot of people buy dahlias from tubers, which I really wanted to do. The people I was wanting to buy them from were all sold out. So I bought some seeds from Botanical Interest, and then I got some seeds in the swap that I'm going to try. Now, I have been told growing dahlias from seeds is kind of tricky, so I don't know. I wanted to start a bit earlier, and I'm just going off the seed pack, and the seed pack says that you need to start inside 8 to 10 weeks before your average frost date. So I encourage you guys, look on the back of your seed packets, figure out what your estimated last frost date is. You can simply Google that, go to Farmer's Almanac, look that up, and then I'm literally just pulling up the calendar on my phone and backtracking. So that would put me, for my last frost dates, like April 17th or something. That puts me starting my seeds between like now and the 15th. And just because I don't know anything about flowers, I'm gonna give myself enough time and start early in case something goes wrong. I can restart again. And then carnation is another thing. I've never grown this flower before. It looks really stunning. Again, I got these from Botanical Interest. All the flowers that I'm growing this year, I actually bought from them. I've just heard really good things about them, and anytime I've tried to grow vegetables from Botanical Interest, their germination rate's been really well. So that's who I went with. And again, this says 8 to 10 weeks, so I'm just pulling up my phone, figuring out. And then marigolds, I'm going to go ahead and try to start some now, and then I'm going to start some later. It's maybe a bit early, but since I've also had issues with marigolds in the past, that's what I'm going to do. I do get asked a lot of questions, so I wanted to run through this today because I just think it's good information, and everyone kind of does it differently. And I know for me, I really appreciate seeing others people's like perspective and kind of how they fill out their notes and what they are taking notes on and what they aren't. So I wanted to show you guys what I'm taking notes on this year. I'm going to be very, very diligent with this. I actually have an entire notebook dedicated to my seed starting, you know, for 2021, when I'm starting, and all sorts of stuff. So I want to run through that with you guys real quick, just because y'all have shown some interest. So what I have here is flowers of 2021. I have got today's date, so today is the 9th, and I wrote what it was, the variety, and then how many I sowed. Let me zoom you guys in so you can see that there. So you can see that I just wrote the variety, how many of them I plan on sowing. And then down here, I write what cell tray I started them in. Now, I had to ask people. I've never grown flowers like this before. I've grown zinnias from seeds, but I just reached out to some flower farmers and asked them, hey, you know, how do you grow or start your dahlia seeds and things like that? I had several farmers tell me that they start them in soil blocks, which I'm not familiar with soil blocks. I mean, I know what it looks like and the contraption information, but I've never actually used them. So if you have worked with soil blocks, I'd love to know, do you like them? Do you not like them? I've heard a lot of different things. But then I reached out to a farmer local to me, and he recommended that I start them in a bigger cell. He's never grown dahlias from seeds, but he knows dahlias prefer more space. So I am planning on starting mine in a 50 cell tray. So you guys can see these are quite a bit bigger than what I usually do. Like all my tomatoes start in a 128 cell tray. So this is going to be a bit different, but I thought this would be easier than doing the 2.5 inch pots. So that's what I'm going to start them in today. I'm going to go ahead and start my carnations in a 50 cell tray as well. I wrote on here 72 cell trays, but I left my 72 cell trays in the back of my car, and Nathan took it today. So you guys can see I have just put that on there, what I've started them in, and then I've got notes. So on my notes, I've just asked questions that I know I will want to know going forward next year. So I put, how was germination? How quickly did they sprout? So whenever they do sprout, I'll come in here and say, it took them 9 days to sprout, 10 days to sprout, whatever. And then the cell size, I will put, did this seem too big, too small? Was it just right? That way I can reference next year when I start these. Do I want to start them in a 50, cell tray? Can I go to 72? Just kind of figure out, the wiggle room I have there. And then I put lighting, and I want to know, was the grow lights okay? Did they just kind of my assessment on that? And then I also want to know, did I start them too soon? What did the plant look like? Did it, look a bit leggy? Could I have started it later and been better and had a sturdier, more established plant? And so those are things that I'm just going to jot down as I see it. And I do these detailed assessments for each of the things I start. So like my peppers, I came in and I wrote down what peppers I started and when. I have yet to have any of those stinking things sprout, but when they do, I'll come in and I'll put how many days. They are actually on a heat mat. They're the only thing I have right now that's on a heat mat. Will probably be the only thing I put on a heat mat right now. And even then, they just take longer, and so I'm just writing down all of these things, and I encourage you guys to do that so much, because moving forward, in your next season, you'll be really glad that you have these notes to reference. I know right now it is an extra step, but there have been so many seasons I never kept notes, and I every year would be like, oh my gosh, when did I start my peppers last year? Or when did I start my tomatoes? And when did I start, my sunflowers or whatever? And I just could never remember, right? I mean, I'm busy, I've got kids, you probably can relate, you've got that thing, in your life. And so keeping the detailed notes, keeping a good assessment is really good. Having some sort of gardening journal, gardening log, and even throughout the season. So this will be just for seed starting. But then I do have, a whole nother gardening log that I will keep up with the plant as it grows. If it produced fruit well, how it tasted, if it was, had a lot of pest damage. And I just keep those detailed notes, and I have found that it really does help me moving forward in the next season, especially on those experimental crops that I add in each year. It helps me know, I want to continue to have that and make that be a regular. Like, no, that was so, not worth it. So I encourage you guys, grab a notebook, grab a pen, jot down your notes. You will thank yourself later for doing that. But yeah, so let's go. Now I have already came in and just, pre-soaked or pre-moistened my soil, if you will. That's just something that I like to do. I am using the Jiffy seed starting mix. I think I've showed you guys this before. I have been doing some research, however, on some different options. I've been talking to some friends lately who have just really kind of opened my eyes about using potting soil, and I don't know, I think I may try it, not all of it, but I think I may try to start some of my tomatoes using a potting soil that comes recommended from some friends. The only difference in a seed starting mix and a potting soil is potting soil has a fertilizer in it and a seed starting mix doesn't, which I do add fertilizer, but I won't add that until I up pot mine and they have their true leaves on them, most of them. But I'm thinking, I've been told that a lot of people I know are having success starting in a potting soil, and they have found that having that extra boost of fertilizer in the beginning has actually really helped. So I don't know, y'all know I'm always up for a good experiment, so I may try it on a few. I'm not willing to like risk starting all of my tomato seeds in it if I don't like it, but I thought about maybe just adding, you know, just doing one tray full of the potting mix and just kind of do my own assessment and see. I'd love to know from you guys, when you start your seeds, do you use a true seed starting mix, or are you using some sort of really good high quality potting soil that has a fertilizer in it? I'd really love to know y'all's responses on that. All right. Give it a good little splat on the floor. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you guys, I love it. I absolutely love this. Now, what I have done too with my flowers, I did this probably when I got my seeds in. Since I've never grown flowers, and this is totally new to me. Some of you guys may be watching this and be like, oh my gosh, you have so much to learn, and I do. This year is going to be such a year of growth for me, and just experimenting with growing, you know, a crop I've never grown before, I don't really know anything about, and for me that's exciting, but there's a lot of unknowns, you know, involved in that. So what I did is I have another notebook, and I have written down every single variety of seed that I bought, flower seed, and I wrote down, you know, when I needed to start them, what that window was, what they preferred. So I just went through and gathered and researched a bunch of information just to make sure that I'm giving, you know, all these seeds what they need to thrive. You know, the lavender needs cold stratification. I did not know that. So, you know, had I done research on that before and found that out, maybe I could have gotten lavender to grow the last few years. And, you know, so far the flowers that I'm growing, none of them require that cold period. Some herbs that I'm doing, you know, do require that, but they do specify their light conditions and things like that. And so I just went through, got some really, really detailed information that I thought would just help me, you know, kind of set me up for a successful year. And I encourage you guys to do that as well. If you're growing a variety you don't know anything about, or you've never grown it before, don't be discouraged that you don't know anything. Just spend some diligent time, you know, researching and figuring out, okay, what can I do to make sure this is a good year? And so that's what I did. Now we just have to cross our fingers and hope that actually works. Ooh. All right. I actually noticed the other day, look at these goji berries. Can you guys see those little bitty sprouts? Look at that. How cool is that? I am extremely thankful to all of you guys. Y'all know I was so pumped to grow the goji berry. Like, it sprouted, I'm really excited, but so many of you guys told me that that thing kind of grows wild and that I need to not put it in a garden bed with other things. It'll overtake it. And so I am extremely fortunate that you guys know what you're talking about and y'all help me out. So now I've been trying to like figure out a dedicated space to that. I'm glad I didn't start more seeds than I did. So thank you guys for your help with that. All right. I've been trying to debate how many of these I need to start. That is something that, you know, tomatoes, I know how many I'm going to start, how many I'm going to sell. I've sold them before, so I kind of have that gauge of, you know, how many will sell, how many I have left over. With flowers, however, that's been a bit tricky. I haven't done this before. So I've been trying to gauge with the plant sale. Usually the lady who runs it, she asked that we at least start 20 of each variety. I'm at least going to start 20 to sell at the plant sale, and then probably keep, you know, 10 or so for me. So fingers crossed these do really well. They're so beautiful. I mean, really though, look at those. Look how pretty those are. So as I was mentioning earlier, the research that I conducted and stuff, you know, I prefer a seed packet that gives really, really detailed information on the back. And that's my preference because I really read those a lot and I take note of what they say, and some of them that it's just like pretty vague. I personally don't love those. And this one back here, it says special germination instructions. So if you guys can see that at the bottom, and this is what it says. It says light age germinations, press seed into soil surface and do not cover. So that is key, and that's something I want to talk about too, because I think oftentimes people think that maybe they have old seeds, or, you know, they just say, oh, something's wrong with my seed, when in fact it could actually not be that their seeds are old. It could be that, you know, the things that that seed needs to germinate and to thrive, it's not getting. Most of the time it is a light thing. Sometimes it could be that cold stratification we were talking about. And so, you know, sometimes they could just simply be pressed too deep in the soil. I have done that so many times. When I had just started gardening, you know, I would sow it really deep, and I realized, okay, what's going on? And then when I would brush back the topsoil, you know, on the surface of the soil, I would see that it was trying to poke through, but it had spent all of its time trying just to get to the surface of the soil, that it was spent by the time it got there. And so I just think that knowing as much as you can about the varieties that you're growing and what they need specifically is really just going to set you up and really help you to have a really successful year. And for someone like me, I need that, you know, like I need to be like, oh yeah, y'all know how I am. And so I need that, and knowing that, like, if I just spend a little extra time doing the research and figuring out what it is that my plant needs or the seed needs, I just find that overall it's better. All right. Oh my gosh, these are some tiny seeds. Look at these little things. Y'all see those? I'm curious what the dahlia seeds are. I'm also curious, have you guys grown dahlias? So I am just simply, you know, kind of moving the surface back on the soil. Let me try to show you guys here. So I'm just going to make a slight indentation, pop it on there. Now I am just going to sow one of these. Now that, you know, I've never grown these before, so that might be a mistake. I don't know, but I am, just because I've had good germination rate with them before, I am just going to sow one of these and see how they do. Now, obviously, I'll, you know, look back on my notes and figure out when they should be sprouted, and if they don't sprout by then, or I have poor germination, I'll come back in and just resow. I have plenty of seeds, but right now I'm just going to sow one of each and see how it goes. All right, you guys can see right there is the tiny little seed. I mean, seriously, that thing is like micro. So what I'm going to do is just take my finger, press it into the soil, and that's it. And I'm going to do that on all of these. I'm just going to go through, press it down really well, but then not cover it. So I'm just going to lightly press. That's it. I'll be honest, that is kind of foreign to me. I don't typically like grow any type of seed that I would need, you know, to do that to. So bad. Like, I just want to go back in and like brush the soil back over, but I'm not. I'm going to make sure that these little babies thrive. But that is one of those rookie mistakes. Had I not done my research on the front end, you know, I would have just sowed them deep, not realizing that light really plays a huge key in them germinating, covered them up, and then it just would have been a bust. So I actually just found out this week that our plant sale is going to be online this year, which is how it was last year. And although there were some curveballs because none of us had, you know, uploaded to the platform that we were selling on, we all sold out really quickly, and it was a really, really good year. We're just wanting to make sure that we're doing everything as safely for our community as we can, and we think that by offering this sale online, it's going to allow, you know, more community members to participate, schedule a time to come pick up their stuff, and we're not having to worry about them bouncing from vendor to vendor. And I am actually really excited about it being online. I actually really preferred that after, you know, the learning curve of like trying to deal with something new. It was really cool because if we sold out and we had more, we had the ability just to, you know, add more inventory and stuff like that. And I know I've talked to you guys about plant sales, and if you were thinking about that this year, I wanted to throw out there that if you're not able to do it in person, there's still a lot of value in, you know, offering it online if you can, whether that be, you know, through a Facebook sale, or I think we ended up going through like Shopify, and someone, you know, they would purchase it and we would put together their orders. Now all the farmers still do get together, and we'll just spend all day filling orders. We'll have these booths kind of set up is what we did last year, and everyone had their booth, and we were all spaced accordingly, and you would go and you would grab a box and an invoice, and you would go to the booth and fill the orders, and then we had them set up alphabetically, and someone, you know, figured all that stuff out, and it ended up being a huge success. We were still able to serve our community and get them access to good locally grown plant starts that, you know, they trusted, and farmers that they knew, and it was actually a really neat experience. And so if maybe you've been thinking about a plant sale and you're wanting to do it and you're not sure if you're going to be able to have that plant sale in person due to certain things, I encourage you to look at online options because there is, you know, something really cool about still having the farmers come together and spending time together and then just filling the orders. I don't know, it was just one of those things that I didn't know that it would bless my soul so much, like not being around all the community. I enjoy that. That's one time a year that we have, you know, we see community that we don't get to see often, and I thought that I was going to miss that, and I did miss it. However, it was really, really encouraging to see all the community members that still supported us, even though they couldn't physically be there and shop our products. They shopped them online. They showed love to our family, and it was a really sweet thing. So I encourage you guys to look into that. If you've been sending me messages and been wondering about the plant sale, that's our plan with this year, and it's going to be a good thing. So the dahlias that I'm going to be starting today is this decorative double blend. They're really, really pretty. Now, if the dahlias do well this year from seed, I may continue to grow them for seed. However, next year, I would really like to be able to, you know, get in on time to buy the tubers. I have a friend who sells them, and she sold out so quickly. So maybe next year I can be on top of my game and get some. But these are absolutely beautiful. I'd seen dahlias floating around Instagram, right? Like you'd see those beautiful posts and you're like, oh man, I want to grow that. But then when I farm sat for Jessica this past summer, she had the most beautiful purple dahlias growing in her garden, and that was the first time that I'd seen a dahlia like up close and personal, and I was so inspired, you guys. Like this dahlia spoke straight to my soul. It was just so beautiful. I thought, I don't know what I need to do to grow this, but I'm gonna grow it, and that kind of just sparked this, okay, I'm gonna grow dahlias. I didn't realize that you could grow them from seed and tubers. Like the whole thing's just been really interesting trying to learn. I still don't know a whole lot about it, but for the sake of not getting the tubers inside in time, I just decided to go with the seeds. So the dahlias are actually very similar to the zinnia. As you guys can see, their seeds are also very, very similar. Let me try to put these down and show you. Y'all see that? So this is, you know, primarily what a zinnia seed will look like as well. Let's see. There we go. And they're actually both part of the sunflowers family. I don't know a ton. I know there's a lot of different flowers in that family, but they will have a lot of similarities. You know, I kind of like to refer to as a dahlia as like a really beefed up, you know, zinnia. It's got all those different dimensions and layers and textures, but they are very similar, and that is why, because they are part of the same family. So these you will actually press into the soil. So I'm just going through, and usually I just do a knuckle deep indention when I start these. So usually after Valentine's Day, so Valentine's Day is coming up. Usually after Valentine's Day is when the week after Valentine's Day is usually when I start my tomatoes, and I will be starting seeds like every week from then on out. It is one of those things that I just switch a gear and I'm totally in the mode, and I cannot wait. I mean, Valentine's Day is a lovely holiday, chance for you to, you know, be intentional with your spouse or your loved one, and I really do appreciate that. But I know, like in my mind, when Valentine's Day is over, I can like switch a gear and it is like tomato starting season and all the other things, and I'm really pumped about that. So once Valentine's Day is over, this little lady will be in complete, you know, I feel like I've not really been in seed starting mode. Like when my seed starting mode, like kicks in, y'all, I'll be having like a 7 o'clock at night cup of coffee out in the greenhouse, just spending my nights hands covered in the soil. I love it. I love it. I just like live for that moment every single year. I smell like the greenhouse. I smell like dirt. It smells good. It just like, it literally just lights my soul on fire. And it also, it's just like, oh, I'm so close to spring. I think that's why I like it so much, is it's just like that anticipation of, okay, I've been saying all winter long spring is coming, and I start my peppers still like the end of January, so it's still not really, but then like when we flip that switch, Valentine's Day's over, it's like spring really is coming. It is a true thing. I'm not, lying to myself any longer. And it's just such a sweet thing. I love it every year. And just like that, I have started 50 more seeds. So now I'm going to move on to the white marigold. This one just so captured my attention when I was going through the seed catalog this year. It just looked beautiful. I mean, look at those. Aren't they so pretty? So I grow marigolds every year. I plant them in with my tomatoes. I plant them in between my tomatoes, kind of as like a companion plant. It really helps, I've noticed, with just like pest pressure. Sometimes people call them trap plants or something like that. But I typically just grow your orange, and so this year I've got that one. I also grabbed some seeds from Jessica's garden this summer. Also, they were these really beautiful yellow, and so those are actually what I'm going to be growing. I don't know that I'm going to start any, just of your orange French marigolds. I have seeds saved, so it may be one of those things, if I'm needing a filler later in the season or I'm needing some more companions, I may just take those and direct sow them. So the really cool thing about a marigold is they are extremely easy to save seeds from. So when you have your marigold plant and it's getting towards the end of the season and they're dying out, the flowers will actually dry into these little pods like this right here. And what I do is I just go and I pluck these pods and I just stick them in a baggie. So I have got probably 3 baggies full of just these little pods. And what you do is you will just pull the top off and you'll separate it, maybe, and you'll kind of, loosen out the bottom. We got seeds going everywhere, y'all. Alright, and then this right here, let's see. Y'all see this? These are all marigold seeds right there. Hey, look at all of those seeds. So they're just these tiny little sticks. They kind of look like matchsticks, if you will. But as you can see, that one small pod produced all of these seeds. So it's one of those things that I always say, marigolds, I would save seeds of them all day long because they're so easy. You just grab the dried up pod, throw it in a bag, and then you get so many. You only need to save a few. I mean, I probably have 35 seeds right here, and when you have even bigger ones, like, they'll produce even more. I've had some that have literally probably had like 100 different seeds in them, so that is incredible. And so, yeah, I just think it's great. Now, since I decided to not start as many, I still have 30 more cells that I can fill, and I think I'm going to. I think now that the plant sale is online, so y'all know I've expressed to you guys my struggle with peppers before. I didn't want to commit that I could. We all like submit a variety list for the plant sale, and I didn't want to commit and say that, I would sell peppers if my peppers flopped. But I'm feeling optimistic. And since if they don't do well, I can simply just not add them to the website, that they're for sale. And if they do, then I can. I think I may go through I've already filled this up with soil, so I may just go through and try to grow some more peppers, because I told you guys, I'm determined to do this year, and I'm going to, so fingers crossed they do well. But thank you guys so much. I just started my first flowers for 2021. Actually, I just started my first flowers pretty much like ever, aside from zinnias and sunflowers. But like the dahlias and the fancy like cut flower blends, this is my first time ever doing this. I cannot wait to kind of walk through the process with you guys. Y'all know we are extremely transparent, so if it is a total flop, you guys will know. If it's a success, we will all celebrate together. But I encourage you guys, if you are wanting to venture into something that is new and unknown, just do it, because you honestly don't know. Like I said, this may be a flop, and I may go back to just growing tomatoes next year, and that is totally fine. But I won't ever know until I try it. And I'm at a place where I want to try new things. I want to encourage my viewers to try new things and just have faith and confidence in yourself that you can do it, and kind of learn through that stretching period. So I am really excited about this. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I'll talk to you soon.